Should tell you first off that I decided against using the small pieces that were about this width, and I was going to sort of modularly place them, but of course that's not really going to work that well in a scene where I could potentially have dirt on it, um, and be doing it in Substance Painter rather than putting dirt, grunge, or any other kind of, moss or whatever, in a game engine, sort of painting it on the whole thing. I would be doing it in Substance Painter, and then it would be very repetitive. So I've decided on a very plain, straightforward texture that I'm not finalized on yet. And I actually, what I'm doing is I'm taking this big long wall piece, and then I'm kind of copying it over and doing, another couple of wall pieces, just repeating this. So taking this long section and cutting it down and just putting it together and hoping that any seams could be blocked by pillars or whatever, or not visible. So what I'm getting at is this is where I'm at right at the particular moment. So this is a potential wall texture anyhow. It's got a concrete on here. This is all in Substance Painter. I've modeled some bricks, some sort of metalish bars, a little protrusion, and the bars again here. The pipes are very simple, just they're unwrapped, and they have a metal texture that I didn't make. It's a downloadable metal texture, and I'll see if I can find it. What I'm trying to do is actually stay more just in the diffuse area of things, the diffuse and roughness, and not too much normal or height information. Because back in the day of Half-Life, a lot of the textures were really diffuse, and you don't see the PBR kind of stuff where you got little grains and holes and all that stuff all over. I've done a little bit of that on the bricks because I can't avoid it totally. And of course I'm using some height information up here for the ceiling. And again, none of this is absolutely final. I may be making some changes, but I just wanted to show you where I'm at so far and how the scene might be going. So I'm taking some liberties here. I'm saying now that it's inspired by Half-Life, and there may be some significant differences, and there may be more to model. But right now, this is what I have, and all of the other stuff is in there as well. If I just, well, I guess I would have to just reveal it like this. All right, and there's all the stuff in there. But I wanted to jump over to Substance Painter and show you there is the wall piece that I was talking about, this long wall minus this pillar here, and I brought it in, and I'm ready to go. So a couple of things that I'm doing in order to achieve this kind of a wall. All right, so first things first, we need to bake the mesh maps. So I'm going to do that, and I'll bring it back to here. I'll go up to 2K, and I will uncheck ID, and I will uncheck thickness. That's typically what I do. I don't think I need to do any changes in curvature right now because of what I'm going to do. So I'm going to go ahead and bake this. What I need to do is to define some areas, sort of mask areas where I can put bricks, the bars, and just have the concrete and that little protrusion, stuff like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press F1. That's going to bring me into the UVs, and it was very important to have the UVs nice and straight. And of course that just simply unwraps. There's no seams, unless you wanted to put a seam there and there. But I wanted it to be all continuous so that I could do this. Now it may not turn out exactly the same as what you see in the image here, but I'm just going to show you generally how I would go about doing it. So I want to lay out an area for bricks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a fill layer, and I'll just use color for the moment. I'm going to make it red so it's easily visible. I'm going to add a black mask, and now I'm going to paint the area that I want the bricks in. So I'm going to come over to my alphas and search for square rectangle. There it is. I'll press tab so I can maximize my view and zoom in. The only thing I should do is make sure that I don't have anything funny going on with the brush. Okay, I'll let's bring the spacing all the way down. I don't want jitter or any of that stuff. Okay, so, and I want to be on the black mask, which I am. So I'm going to have an area of bricks. So somewhere around here, I'm just going to hold Shift and Control, click and drag, and that is my area. Maybe I'll come up a little bit higher than that. So there's my area for bricks. So let's go and have a look at the bricks themselves. So what I'm going to do is create a folder, drag this fill layer into the folder, and I need this mask on the folder layer in order to have my bricks, because I'm going to put a fill layer under here with my bricks. And if I don't mask this off, it's going to go all over the place. So I just copy the mask, come up to the folder and go paste into mask. You won't see any differences, but now I can come in here and I can add a fill layer, come into the properties, go to the grayscale, and then it's up to you to decide how you want to do this. I'm not quite sure I remember how I did it, if I used tile generator, brick generator, or what. We could start with the tile generator and see where that brings us to. Now it's a very small area, so I'm going to try square. And we'll bring this square down a little bit. And let's go over to the pattern on this here. And let's play around with these. Yeah, I may have used the brick generator. We're going to see if I can get anything in here. Let's try the offset. Set the offset to 0.5. That'll give us a better indication of what our bricks are like. So this is just one way that you could do this. Say I do that. And can I increase the scale? That's not doing it there. Oops, I don't want to do that. And that's one idea. All right, so what I'm actually going to be doing is alt-click on height, and I'll bring the height all the way up. And at this point, you can add a little bit of rounding if you want, a little bit of a bevel. Let's first of all look at blur. And go to, we'll try like 0.15. Essentially beveling it, you know, but I think that makes, it looks a little cartoony, makes them pop out a little bit more. Okay, I keep doing that. But there are some bricks and they go all the way down to the end. So let's say I was happy with that. Now, what about the texture? Well, we're not going to do that right now. What we're actually going to be doing is creating all of the height for all the parts, and then creating a normal map, exporting the normal map, and bringing that back in so that smart materials or curvature or other generators can act. Because the generators, if I want curvature, let's say I want a white outline. Here, let me go back to this. I don't know how well you're going to see this, but there is a faint white line around all of the bricks. Yeah, you really can't. You almost see it here. Kind of like when you, in substance design, I don't know if you've ever seen it, where they get a white line around things to make it stand out, a little bit more stylized. Or if you want dirt, let's say this panel here, this protrusion, if I want dirt sort of there and there, you're not going to get it with height. So what you would need to try to do is use anchors. But then they can be finicky, and you've got multiple anchors. And this is a standard way to do things, where you put all your alphas and normals and you export the normal. I'll show you what I'm talking about in a bit, but let's move on. So let's say we were happy with those bricks. And again, you can do multiple things on these bricks. You can add debris, and you can add, I just don't know that I would do it here. Like for example, if I just quickly add a blur slope, I'll switch this to 10, and I'll bring the intensity down. You can, of course, change the noise that you want to use. Use a custom noise, and then go for, say, grunge, maybe this one here, and then play with, you know, all of this stuff. Okay, where was I before? Let's leave it there. You can blur it out so that it's just a little warped. I mean, you can do a lot of stuff very similar to Substance Designer. I'm going to leave it straightforward, though, at this point. And maybe I'll go back after and do that. So I've got my bricks. Now, I want to set up for another one. So I'm going to add a fill layer. I actually want it above, out of this folder. And again, I'll just do that. I'm going to make this red. I'm going to add a black mask. And now I'm looking for an area to put those metal bars. And the bars I'm talking about are these things. Now there's a spot here, and there's a spot up higher, closer to the ceiling. Okay, so I'm going to maximize this. And I don't necessarily want it as wide as the bricks. I'll just make it a little bit narrower. And it is a bit small, so it's a little tough to get it in the right position. But of course you can do it again and again. That's not bad. We'll just go with that. Okay, so we're creating our mask here. So again, I'm going to create a folder. I'm going to drag that in. I'm going to copy the mask, come up here, paste into mask. Now I can come over here and I want to use stripes. So I'm going to add a fill. I mean, there's different ways to do this, okay? And it almost always will look better in geometry, but we're trying to do this and sort of learn Substance Painter. So I'm going to type stripes. You'll see those are in there. I'll come down to the pattern and shift like this. And now I'm going to start playing with the number of stripes. You can start to see something going on inside there. And the width. But what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to increase the tiling to 2. And I'd like to get 3 strips in there if I can. So even like that, let's see if I can, there, like that. Something like that could probably work for me. All right, so I'm going to come back here. I think I'll alt-click on color, so I have only height, or alt-click on height. And I'm going to bring that all the way up. And at this point, I'd like to look more over here. All right, but they're very square. And just like without a bevel, you know, it's very hard to tell their actual shape. So I will come over here, and there's a couple of ways to do this. You can use a bevel or you can use a blur. I'm going to try with the blur. And I've done this many times before. All right, so there's with the blur, and you get that effect. Let's say I cancel that or just hide it, that's what I meant to say. And I come over to bevel. Bevel can be a bit more finicky. I'm going to turn the smoothing up, though. And then just slowly. Usually when you're working like in Substance Designer, you're punching in numbers. You know, when you try to pull to the left or the right, it just goes too quick. So you can do that. I think I'll just stick maybe with the blur. It might be possible to sharpen it up with the levels just a little bit. I just want to see if I can do that and still sort of maintain my rough curvature. You know, if you go up real close, it might look like, you know, it's not as rounded as it could be. But, you know, you can get some real nice effects with the levels, and I might be losing what I wanted. I think I might go with that. Let's see if I just bring that up a little bit more. I think that looks pretty good. I'm not going to be zoomed up super close to that. All right, so let's say this is going to be our, I'll call it bars. Now let's say I want that also up near the top. I can just come in here on the mask, maximize. Let's go like this, move this over. You could also come up here and just go 2D only. And I got that whole space. So I'm just going to choose an area up here pretty close to the top, and Control and Control and Shift, and I just painted in some more bars up there. Cool. All right, so those are my bars, and I'm just going to do something simple for the next one. create a fill, and I'll make it red. It's not absolutely necessary. Add a black mask. I'll maximize, and maybe I'll go to 2D only. So that's F3, right? F3. Okay, cool. And I'll make it a little bit narrower and come down here, drag across. I've got my line there. And now I can, for this one, I don't think I need to do anything special. I should be able to just alt-click height. I'll bring that all the way up. And let's go to F2 and just get out of that view and just look here. And I don't want it that sharp, so what should I do? Well, I'm going to add a blur. I do this almost all the time. Okay, and then now it sort of pops out a little bit more. All right, so there's no colors, there's no dirt or anything on there. We've just created the height information. What I'd really like is to have that as a normal map that the other maps will respond to, especially the curvature, as if this was geometry. How do we make it seem like geometry? So I'm going to call this, I'll just call this stripe. All right, so I've got all that there. I'm going to save. Now, I'm going to come up here and come up with a name. What's wall texture tutorial? That's fine. I can just leave that there. So I'm going to come over to my file, export textures, and in my output templates, I have one which is normal export here. And what I've done is created this template just for this purpose, just for normal. So I would have just taken this normal, as long as it's OpenGL, and just deleted all of the other ones here, except for that, so that I would be left with normal export. Okay, so I'm going to come over here and I'm going to choose normal export. There it is. And I'm just going to put this on my desktop. It's going to be one file. All right, so here we go. Export. There, wall texture tutorial underscore normal.png. Okay. Now that I've done that, coming back to my texture sets. Now, I did already bake this. No problem, though. I'm going to import that one map. There it is. I'm going to define it as a texture to my current session or to your project. And there it is. And what I'm going to do is you can see the information on it right there. I'm going to drag this over here and drop it in. So you could do bolts and all of your alphas and normal work, then export it, bring it back in. I'm going to actually turn this stuff off, and you'll see that even without these layers, this stuff is there. I'm not going to delete them yet, though, because there might be something that I want to use in here, or if I want to make changes and do it again. But my curvature, etc., is not reacting to this. I just brought this map in. And so now that I've got that there, I want to bake the mesh maps again so that they sort of react to that normal. So I'm going to do this. All I have to do is uncheck normal so I don't bake over that, and bake. And now you can't see it very well, but that information is baked in to the other maps as well. And so if I add a generator, it can respond to this. So let me start sort of setting this up. So underneath it all, I'm just going to go to my materials. And after extensive testing, I ended up deciding that I think this concrete simple is closest to what I want. However, I'm going to turn off the cracks. I might increase the hue a little bit, or the color. And another thing that I want to do is I've decided I think I'm going to try to just blur this out. And I actually found that with that and maybe tiling this 2 or 3 times, try 2 times, 5 times. I'll come back to 2. I don't want any of that. Yeah, I just found that I got a nicer effect, almost really high up like that, just for a smooth kind of look. I mean, I guess it depends what you like. For my bricks, if I just activate this again, I get like the double effect. And I don't really want that. So I'm going to come back here and I'm going to turn off the height, at least for the bricks. Probably what I would do, actually, is I would add another fill layer on there if I wanted to do something. Let's say just height. Let me drop that down a bit and show you what I mean. If I had a black mask and a fill, and I go for something like fractal, let's see, fractal. So let me just choose that. Okay, you're starting to see something there in the bricks. You know, so you could do that without activating the height again. In fact, just shut that off, just to make it so it's a little bit more noticeable. So if I wanted to do something for the bricks, I still have the mask available. So I'm just going to leave that. That's not necessarily what I would do, but you might put some dots, some holes, whatever. For the bars, I'm going to come into the bars, and again, I've got that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a fill layer, and you can see they're turning white. That's great. I'm going to go for only color, maybe roughness, and bring the roughness up a bit. I want a metal. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to search for a metal texture. And like I say, I will try to find this one for you. It would have been downloaded from probably textures.com at some point. But you can experiment with whatever. And so let me see if I can find this metal. This one here, okay, metal 024 2K color. I'm sure it's from there. I'm just going to bring that in. I'm going to define it as a texture to the current session. I'm going to import, and there it is. I'm just going to drag it to the base color. Now it's got some imperfections on it, and so you might feel that's too much or whatever. Search for another one, but I'm going to go with that. And that's actually all I have to do. There's no other textures on there, you know. And and let's come over here. You can see I've got a few dots on here. The lighting is what makes this look kind of dark. Yeah, I mean you can do all kinds of filters on it, but that's the main thing that I've got. And that same metal is on the pipes. I just unwrapped the pipes. I did all the pipes in one. Actually, I did two pipes, this one, and then I just copied this one around. All right, I just used that same metal so that I don't have a lot of grit on it and a lot of PBR style kind of shine and you know, imperfections. I just wanted more of a diffuse look, and even this is not exactly that. But I want to show you a little bit more about how this normal is beneficial to us. So what I'll do is I'll just come up to the top. I don't need to do anything with that. I'm going to add another fill layer, and I'm going to go for color, and I'll just leave it white, and we're just going to watch this. I'm going to add a black mask and a generator, and I'm going to just click on metal edges. And you can see that the white has gone around the bricks. Now, I'm not saying you would use that much. All right, you might do, you know, tone it down, but just for illustrated purposes. And then what I would usually do actually is I will bring this up for the moment, is on top of this. Now you could use metal edges or you could try curvature. But on top of this I would add another fill. And in the grayscale I would add a grunge of some sort. So I'll just take this one again. So you see that, which is kind of neat actually there. But what I'm going to do is switch this to subtract. And that helps to get rid of, here I'll turn it on and off. See, it's cutting out some of the white, so it's not always there. All right, and then you can just decide, you know, again, how much you want. So that can help you, you know, your bricks stand out. You can also try a different color for your edges. Often metal and stuff is dark. Maybe you like that, or red, or whatever. I'm just going to leave that in there. And let's try, oops, turn that back on. So that's edges. Let's try some dirt on here, color and roughness. Bring the roughness all the way up. And the dirt to a dark brown kind of color. And again, you can do any effect that you want to. Black mask. Let's just first of all use the dirt generator and see how that does. And you'll notice that it goes into these crevices more than it would if this was just height. It just would not do that. And so it would not look right at all. But let's say we have that as a layer. And then I'll duplicate this. I'll get rid of the dirt generator, and then I'll come over to my smart masks and look for dirt and try, let's just try this dirt dry leak and throw that on. And get rid of maybe that one. And that's quite a lot. So, you know, we could do something like that. We could try to scale it. How would it look if I did that? So you can get all kinds of neat effects, although, you know, might get a little repetitive. And you may not necessarily choose that dirt as well. It's just something that we can do. Okay. And so that's how I created the wall. All right, with the bricks, the bars, the concrete to some extent. Again, you know, you could decide if you prefer that kind of look, or maybe I don't have to blur it quite as much. You know, whatever. So that's where the project is so far. I don't think I need to talk more about texturing the metal because it was very, very straightforward. Just similar, making having a base color, dragging the metal in, and maybe adjusting the roughness a little bit, and that was really it. The ceiling I can talk to you about another time. It may or may not stay like this, and then I will start working on sort of texturing some of the other items. And I can talk to you about some of that, although a lot of it will be very straightforward, except for when I need to do sort of a substance paint or pattern, like I might on the platform itself. Instead of having those, you know, quad-like holes, I might do a metal grate type texture on there, which is a little bit truer to the original. Thank you so much for coming by. I hope you are liking the video series, and I hope you'll come by for the next one. Take care.